The first section where Larsen and Joasia will sort of present the concept of the exhibition, of the work, the processes with creating the exhibition, and where Sanja Perovic from King's in London will speak about revolutionary time and the French Revolution as performance and how that would impact sort of our concept of the avant-garde if that was to be a kind of origin for the avant-garde. And then after Tania Ørum will speak about the 60s network avant-gardes, perhaps taking off actually in sort of your own participation also in the 60s. Tania has been working on the Nordic avant-gardes, the Danish avant-gardes in the 60s, and connecting the Danish and Nordic avant-gardes to international avant-garde, writing about and also forming networks of researchers and artists. This will be our first section, then we'll have lunch break, and after that we will have discussions on the archives, because part of what actually I think has strengthened the focus on the avant-garde may be that a lot of archives opened up during the 90s. We got sort of access to a lot of archival material. And we'll also again discuss the notion of time and history. Avant-garde as spearheading something, and how will that relate to a concept of contemporaneity. And then after a break again, we'll have a panel discussion with artists and curators who have been doing reenactments within the exhibition, sort of responding to the two first sessions. I should give you one practical information, which is that if you would like during the lunch not to hunt down your own lunch out of the city, you could sort of order a sandwich here, put up your name and what kind of sandwich you would like, and then you can get it in the cafe for lunch by payment, either in cash or with a Danport. And now I give the floor to Lars and Joasia to tell us about sort of the frame.
Thank you very much, Marianne. We'll try to keep it as informal as possible today. It's a long day, so we don't want to make it too formal. But we do have some notes, so we will talk and read, I suppose, with Lars. We do a double act. I would like to very briefly introduce the exhibition and map a context from within which the exhibition emerged. And Lars, I believe, he will follow with some notes, thoughts on conceptual terms employed in the exhibition, and he will focus on the concept of avant-garde and ultralocal, I believe. So just a few words about the context, just to unravel why we're here, actually. The exhibition of a very long title, Aarhus Report, Avantgarde's Network of the Politics of the Ultralocal. I'm using my notes on the screen. Marks the end of a 2-year artistic program, which started with Systemics 1 in January 2013. This exhibition ends at the end of December, and we will start a new program from January. The overall framework of Systemic series refers to text transdisciplinarity of contemporary art as a starting point. And we draw in thinking about how contemporary art is positioned within the wider context, within the wider world. We refer to some references from cybernetics. We take Austrian cybernetician Heinz von Forester as a starting point to think about how things are connected in a wider world and how all things are connected as part of a wider system. Hence the term systemics. Heinz von Forester used the term systemics in a recognition that, and I quote, "It is no longer possible to maintain an understanding of the world based on separate disciplines." And I further quote, "Contemporary science, like art, is all about inventing a good, convincing and interesting story to explain things for which there are no definite answers, such as the origin of the universe." That's what we try to do here. Invent convincing stories and interesting stories. It is also about the idea of collaborative and collective processes in making things. And this is probably the closest link to this exhibition. So Aarhus Report, the exhibition Aarhus Report, is the fourth and concluding exhibition, and it takes a little book which was brought to my attention by Lars a while ago, called Aarhus Report, which you have seen everywhere, displayed everywhere. The book documents a series of events that took place in and around Aarhus between 61 and 69, culminating in this little catalog book published in 69. And actually, interestingly, the book was published by art association that founded this institution. So it's Art Association of 1847. That's the title of the name of the Artists Association, which in 1917, i.e. so 50 years later, after they were established themselves, they established this institution and this building. Actually, the room that we are sitting right now is 1917 part. There are other extensions, and in a way it sort of demonstrates how institution has changed and how the link to art context has changed. We have an extension from 1999, which is the Rotunda, where you have archive section. And then the gallery downstairs is another extension from 2005, I believe. And it was done by C.F. Muller Architects. So that's our connection to other disciplines than art per se. Anyhow, the book draws attention to the time when, and I'm saying this in the institutional context, because this institution has a very interesting history. It's almost 100 years history, or it will be in 2017. And this sort of prompts a reflection on the place of this institution in cultural ecology of the city and the country and its international context now. And this is why the book was a very interesting discovery for me. And I again thank Lars for bringing it to my attention, because it highlights a very interesting moment, not only in contemporary Danish art scene then, but also for this institution. So it's a nice link to think about then and now. And also the book points to a very collaborative character, a very collective character of events that happened at the time and how they were put together. And this is something that we, not perhaps intentionally, but we drew upon this methodology in making this project. So the issues of self-organization and network approach. So how the way the project developed, and I'm coming to the end of my notes, the way the project developed very organically over the period of 2.5 years, through conversations, through involvement of many people, and through something that we initially called curatorial committee or curatorial collective, but then happened to expand and include other people in other roles. So just to sum up, the main concerns for this exhibition were to look at the relationship between history and now, and contemporary conditions, and how contemporary artistic practice is present in relation to wider context. And for me personally, the issue of methodology, curatorial methodology. So looking at collective process as organizational mode for curating. So curatorial control versus self-organization. But this is something maybe we can sort of include in the discussion later, I hope. And I pass on to Lars to unravel some conceptual aspects of the exhibition.
Yeah, actually. I'll just say a few words about the title, in particular the term ultralocal, which is a somewhat homegrown term. When we look for a title for our project, the term ultralocal seemed useful to help frame this exhibition that doesn't only set out to cover a historical terrain, but also tries to cultivate some speculative ties with the present. So for one thing, we curators are claiming that there is a continuity between avant-garde, or the new avant-garde of the 60s, and contemporary art. So hence we have both archival material from the 60s and new commissions by living artists, people like that. Of course, the term ultra-local indicates a locale or a certain emphasis on topography. But it can also be used, we think, to articulate continuities as well as tensions between new contemporary positions in art and the 1960s Aarhus support material, as well as even further back in history, as well as historical avant-garde positions, such as, for instance, the film program organized by the Museum of Audio, as shown in the basement. So basically, the ultralocal can be seen as a kind of search term to ask how artists such as Huang, David Hullfish, and Matthias Kochham's project on the Isha which were the new commissions for this exhibition, how these artists and projects negotiate an avant-garde heritage. So the ultralocal, first of all, the term ultralocal presents itself with some problems of provenience. It probably comes originally from mathematics and physics, where it denotes a phenomenon that's influenced only by its immediate neighbors. So mathematics and physics, ultralocal is some kind of abstract province where movement and transformation is indirect and contingent only via neighbors and neighbors. Unsurprisingly, however, Salvador Dali's definition of ultralocal is less modest and rather. When Dali was inducted into the French Academy in 1979, he discussed in his acceptance speech an epiphany he had had at the railway station in Huang one September in the early 60s. As he was waiting for the train here, the constitution of the universe revealed itself to him. In a moment of what he called cosmogonic ecstasy. And he saw that the Iberian Peninsula had turned around this exact point in time and space when the continents drifted apart. So hadn't it been for this tectonic link at the Papinang railway station, Spain would have drifted to Australia, and the entire nation would have been forced to live among the kangaroos, which is the most dreadful thought conceivable. And on this note, he quotes his old friend, Tania, who apparently said, and I'm sorry for French, on le Marianne and l'universel à partir de l'ultralocal, which approximately means that one can only reach the universal from the ultralocal. And it's only, the sentence also circulates in Spanish, because of the lead, so in the more potent Spanish, it sounds, hay que ser ultralocal para ser universal. So in this various searches on the net and in the literature on the net. But curiously, this concept of the ultralocal seems absent in Montaigne's own writings. So one will search for it in his essays. So maybe it was something that the ghost of Montaigne whispered into the divine Europe that on the occasion of his epiphany. But since that he was a reader of research in exact sciences, we can speculate that he derived the concept of the ultralocal from his mathematical definition and sort of picked it up by ascribing it to Montaigne. We were in touch with Lord Grau, who is the Catalan translator of Montaigne. And according to Grau, the least exegesis of Montaigne is an alien spirit to Montaigne's cosmopolitanism. Still, one would have to apply a Berlinian interpretation to Montaigne to arrive at a statement that resembles the one that Montaigne. However, this is hardly something that really compromises that he was a great bullshitter, basically. More to the point, well, we could also quote the least methodology and say that by misquoting Montaigne, that he had created a paranoid version of the term ultralocal. It's a double or scenario, which is great for us, and which fits our needs very well because it's an open term, and we can share it with our what seems certain about the term ultralocal is that it conveys a certain neutrality of value, where the term provincial cannot be divorced from judgment. The ultralocal seems to differ to the dichotomy of central and periphery. And this dichotomy between central and periphery is something that pops up in recent discussions about the Avantgarde. In the book edited by Tania and Marianne, Tradition of Avantgarde, has an essay called Spor af Avantgarde, where he talks about, or Avantgarde operates with this dichotomy between Avantgarde centers and Avantgarde peripheries, and he seems quite strict on holding this. Holding this dichotomy in his discussion of the historical topography. However, if you use the term ultralocal rather than central periphery, we can assume that there are ultralocal singular locales both in the metropolis and in the province. So there are ultralocals in the capital cities as well as in the wasteland. And these are subject to particular conditions. And I think that this might be what Hullfish called granularity in his work. In his work here, he works with various sites and historical strata.
You can laugh.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So one can trace ultralocal conditions that connect different sites and non-sites, as also in Mr. Miller's paraphrases of Smithson's earthworks, or in the ultralocal Danish, what Lasse calls new arbejde. So one can of course conceive of ultralocalities as nodes in a network. That seems like simple. But these nodes may be more than organizational or programmatic networks in human cultures. So bearing in mind Lasse's and Lea's and Dave's works, these nodes also make for certain vanishing points for human history itself by opening up to, for instance, geological time or non-human collectives. For instance, I know that Lea has collaborated with a very local flock of sheep in the back of her work. Another new work that's presented in this exhibition is a video by Fannin and Krav, also in the downstairs department, which is a computer-generated video piece that revolves around systems of emergence and evolution, as far as I can tell. Still, artists such as Leah, they place their work consciously and methodologically in continuation of 20th century avant-garde cultures. Leah by working in continuation of spiritualist and pop traditions, for instance, and Dave by working in continuation of Russian constructivism. At the same time, both of them offset anthropocentric perspectives with systemic thinking, with tectonics, with sheep, with meteors that are located or played out in network charismatic structures. So in this perspective, one can ask, what becomes of the avant-garde, its concepts, its cultures, its possibilities, when it meets the non-human? How is the real that investigated and be combined in this way? Yeah, that's